So why then should we bother about altars when we are told that there is nothing more against us? It has been cancelled. The written code against us, all these regulations of the Old Testament have been cancelled. So now we should just live a merry and happy life. Why then should we bother about altars? Let me tell you today why we should bother about ancestral altars and witchcraft altars. We said last week also that last week but one, that as God was teaching this spiritual law of altars and the fact that a man has to raise an altar in order to communicate with God, Satan was watching keenly. He was watching keenly. We have an enemy called Satan who has studied the spiritual laws of altars and uses these laws against us to steal, to kill, and to destroy. So if we lack knowledge concerning these altars, Satan does not lack that knowledge. He does not lack that knowledge. So we need to understand that Satan is after generations, not just after individuals. When you see him attacking constantly an individual, he knows that he can get generations from that one individual. Okay? So he will look for the sin that will bring the most damage. He look for the sin that will bring the most damage. And Satan knows the word enough to know that it is the sin of worshiping directly that will give him 4 generations. So it is a sin that he wants people to commit. Because he knows if we commit that sin, 4 generations, he can go to sleep now. 4 generations are all his now, to do with as he pleases, to attack, to steal, to kill, and destroy them. So this is why ancestral altars are of great interest to Satan. They are of great interest to Satan. He knows, according to Exodus chapter 20, verses 3 to 5, which we will not read together, which tells us that if we worship another god, punishment will come on us, on our children, on our grandchildren, and on our great-grandchildren. So why should Satan even bother with other sins when this one sin will ensure that for 4 generations he can attack people? So if your great-grandparents made covenants with him at shrines where they raised demonic altars through blood sacrifices, then their children, their grandchildren, and their great-grandchildren are under the control of Satan. What about if it is your grandparents who worship Satan? Then your grandparents, your parents, you, and your children are all under his control. So if your parents worshipped other god, you saw them, and a lot of people tell me, yes, I used to see my father and mother. They even brought somebody to come and pray, and they even killed things in our compound. They even buried things in our compound. They took a chicken, and we sat in a circle. They were going around like this with that chicken. Okay? If your parents worshipped Satan, then your parents, you, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren are under his control in a very hidden manner. In a very hidden manner. We've already said that generation, the word generation, can be divided into 2 words. Gene, what is in your bloodline, your gene, and ration, which means what is rationed into your bloodline. Generation. Okay? So something is rationed into our bloodline. Why should Satan seek to control one person when he can control 4? And when that generation is dying off, because you say, oh, then that is fine. There'll just be 4 generations, and after that, the 5th generation can now live for Christ. Yes, but listen to what Satan does. He makes sure that the 4th generation gives him 4 generations through their sins. Then he makes sure that the 3rd generation, through idolatry also, gives him another 4 generations. Then he makes sure that the 2nd generation, through their idolatry, gives him another 4 generations. Then he makes sure that you and I, through our own idolatry, we give him another 4 generations. And so it is perpetrated generation after generation after generation.